You know, we often operate under this very dangerous illusion that holding on is always a virtue, that staying, enduring, persisting in a relationship, regardless of its state, is somehow a sign of moral fortitude. But sometimes, and listen to me carefully, sometimes the most courageous and loving act you can perform is the act of stepping away. Letting go is not abandonment. It is the highest form of respect when love has reached a threshold where staying becomes a silent act of sabotage rather than sacrifice. In every human relationship, there exists an invisible boundary between care and control, and those who fail to see it often find themselves imprisoning the very people they intended to free. When you hold on to someone out of fear of loss, fear of loneliness, fear of uncertainty, you are no longer acting out of love. You are acting out of ego. And the ego does not love, it possesses. To love someone is to understand that they do not belong to you. They are not your project. They are not your responsibility to fix. They are a sovereign being, full of potential, full of flaws, full of their own path. And to cling too tightly is to suffocate that very path. What we call saving someone is often just a disguise for our own need to be needed. That's not virtue, that's dependency. You must ask yourself, are you protecting her or are you preventing her from becoming who she was meant to be? Because when you stand in the way of someone's necessary suffering, their essential confrontations with chaos, you're not doing them a favor. You're delaying their evolution. You're intercepting their dialogue with reality. You're interfering with the brutal, beautiful process of becoming. You may believe you're acting from love, but if your presence is shielding her from consequence, from challenge, from responsibility, then your presence is not protective, it's parasitic. Because what does it mean to respect someone if not to believe that they are capable of walking through the fire on their own? We pretend that staying in a broken dynamic is noble, when in fact it often stems from the refusal to let reality take its course. Letting go is not a weakness, it is an affirmation. She is capable, she is resilient, she is enough. The greatest insult to someone's strength is to assume that they would fall apart without you. That is not love, that is control wearing the mask of concern. And the truth is, many people will stay in unfulfilling relationships not because they love the other person, but because they are afraid of what they'll be forced to confront in the silence that follows departure. So they stay, they smother, they make excuses, they call it love, but deep down they know it's fear. Letting go demands a kind of courage that staying does not. It requires you to accept that not all stories end in your favor, that not every person you meet is meant to remain by your side, that sometimes the most powerful way to honor what you had is to step aside and allow the other person to grow without your shadow looming over their decision. And one day, when she finds her strength, when she climbs out of the valley and sees the mountain for what it is, she will understand. She'll remember the way you didn't trap her, the way you didn't beg or manipulate or guilt her into staying. She'll remember the silence that wasn't cold but sacred. She'll remember the absence that didn't punish but empowered. And in that moment, there will be gratitude. We don't own the people we love. We accompany them for a time. And when that time ends, what determines our integrity is not how long we held on, but how gracefully we let go. You cannot claim to love someone and simultaneously deny their right to become who they must become. You cannot grow for her. You cannot bleed for her. You cannot die and resurrect in her place. That is her battle. That is her road. And if you truly love her, you will trust that she can walk it, even if it means walking away from you. Letting go is not giving up. It is the refusal to interfere with someone else's confrontation with their potential. It is stepping back so that they may step forward. And that may not win you applause. That may not bring you peace in the short term. But it is honest. It is real. And in the realm of human development, that is everything. We live in a culture that rewards clinging, that romanticizes codependency, that teaches us that if you let someone go, it means you never cared. But that's a lie. Sometimes it's the deepest form of care. Sometimes it's the only act of love left. When words fail, when cycles repeat, when you look in her eyes and realize she is no longer choosing you, but simply not resisting you. That's the moment to let go. Not in bitterness, not in anger, but in dignity. The self-respecting man does not beg to be needed. He builds, he heals, he releases, because he knows that real love is not tethered to possession. Real love is liberation. And he knows that if he must hold on to her in order to keep her, then she's already gone. So he opens his hands, he breathes, he watches her walk away, not because he stopped caring, but because he started caring correctly. Letting go is a test of your character. It's not about how much pain you can endure. It's about how much growth you are willing to allow for both of you. It's about recognizing that proximity is not always proof of love. Sometimes the space between two people is the only place where healing can begin, the only place where the soul can speak without interruption. You may ache, you may grieve, but that ache is not your enemy. That ache is the sound of your soul realigning with truth. You weren't made to be someone's emotional scaffolding forever. You were made to stand beside them, not hold them up when they refuse to stand on their own. That's not support, that's self-erasure. And so you let go, not because she's unworthy, but because she's worthy of her own journey. Not because you don't love her, but because love that binds without growth is not love. It's fear with good intentions. And intentions are not enough. Only action carries weight. Only courage transforms. You must ask yourself, do you want to be remembered as the one who clung or the one who released with grace? Do you want to be the reason she stayed stuck or the reason she finally woke up? Because one day the silence will speak. The distance will make sense. The pain will reveal its purpose. And she will understand that the greatest gift you ever gave her was the space to become. Pain is not the enemy, it is the compass. It signals the place where truth resides, where illusion is shattered, where masks fall and choices must be made. When you avoid pain now, you invite chaos later. When you delay the hard conversation, when you postpone the exit you know is necessary, when you cling to comfort instead of clarity, you are not avoiding suffering, you are amplifying it. You were not made to carry dying things just because you're afraid to feel alone. Love that demands your silence, your surrender, your smallness is not love. It's emotional captivity dressed in sentiment. You think enduring dysfunction is noble, but it is not. It is submission to fear. And fear is not a foundation, it is a trapdoor. Eventually it opens. There's a moment you will face, a quiet one, where your soul whispers what your pride cannot tolerate. That staying is no longer helping either of you. That every smile is stretched, every touch rehearsed, every moment an echo of what once was. That moment is sacred. Do not ignore it. Do not bury it under routines and apologies and rationalizations that feel good but serve no one. The greatest damage in relationships is not done in a single betrayal or breakdown. It's done in 1,000 moments of pretending. Pretending you're happy, pretending it'll change, pretending you don't feel what you feel. But the body never lies. The mind may rationalize, but your nervous system remembers the truth every day you deny it. When you fear the pain of letting go, you forget the cost of staying in what's already broken. You forget the weight of slow emotional erosion. You forget how bitterness grows in the soil of prolonged resentment. Every unspoken truth is a fracture. Every ignored instinct is a wound. Every day you fake it becomes a day you lose yourself. You must understand the nature of unnecessary suffering, the kind you choose by avoiding necessary pain. There is the clean pain, the kind that comes from walking away when everything in your body wants to run back. It burns, yes, but it purifies, it transforms, it ends. The other kind festers. The other kind lingers in your tone, in your eyes, in your sleep. It poisons your peace and turns memory into something corrosive. Staying when your heart has left is not compassion. It is betrayal of yourself and of the other, because they deserve someone who is all in, and so do you. Half-hearted love is not protection, it is quiet harm. It tells the other person that mediocrity is enough. It tells yourself that your needs don't matter, and that is a message you will pay for in ways you can't yet imagine. The future will always reveal the cost of decisions made in fear, but by then the damage has spread. The regret has taken root. The distance has turned into contempt. And what once could have ended in sadness now ends in destruction, because unresolved endings never stay quiet. They return in patterns and projections, in pain passed to the next person who gets too close. You think you're sparing them by staying, but you're stealing their chance to grow. You're denying them the opportunity to rise, to reflect, to rebuild. People don't become strong when you protect them from all discomfort. They become strong when you respect them enough to let them face the truth. And that truth is often delivered through absence. The temporary storm of walking away is infinitely kinder than the slow drowning of false togetherness. Yes, they may cry. Yes, you will ache. But that ache has purpose. It clears the space for something real. It wakes both of you from the sleep of illusion, and in that awakening, something powerful can begin. You cannot heal what you continually feed with denial. You cannot build a future on a foundation that has already collapsed. Love must be chosen freely, fully, fearlessly, or not at all. If you're staying because you're scared, you are not choosing, you are surviving, and survival mode is no place for love to thrive. You owe it to yourself to tell the truth, even when it shakes everything. You owe it to them to be honest, even when it hurts. You do not get to play the hero in a story you've already checked out of. That's not love, that's performance. And one day they will see the truth in your eyes, no matter how well you hide it with smiles. Real love requires real endings, the kind where you walk away, not in anger, not in blame, but in full ownership of what is and what is not. Because pain that is faced transforms. Pain that is avoided metastasizes. It grows in silence. It sharpens in lies, and it eventually erupts in ways that destroy far more than what you are trying to protect. Your peace is not worth the preservation of a bond that no longer reflects who you are. Your growth is not meant to be stunted by guilt. Guilt is the anchor that keeps people in places they've already outgrown. But freedom is found when you choose principle over pressure, when you choose the hard right over the easy wrong. And you may not understand the value of that choice today, but time will teach you, reflection will show you, and more importantly, they one day will recognize the truth in your decision. The same decision they resented, they may later revere, because time in its brutal honesty clarifies what emotion tried to blur. Letting go when it's time is an act of strength disguised as heartbreak. It is the refusal to confuse sentiment with suitability. Just because it once worked doesn't mean it still does. And pretending otherwise is not maturity, it's fear in a tuxedo, dressed up but still fear. The most dangerous lies are the ones we tell ourselves to avoid loss. But loss is not the end. Staying stuck is. Loss creates space. It makes room. It introduces you to the part of yourself that can rise from ashes, and it introduces them to who they might become without you constantly buffering their reality. You don't need to burn the bridge, you just need to walk off it when it no longer leads anywhere. Staying because you're afraid to hurt them is not compassion, it's condescension. It says, you don't believe they're strong enough to rebuild, but they are, and you are, and the pain of now is the only honest path to the peace of later. Avoiding pain is what keeps people mediocre. Choosing it with intention is what creates transformation. You cannot be who you are meant to be and keep everything familiar. Growth always demands a letting go. Always. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you live from truth instead of habit. There is beauty in the break. There is power in the departure. Not because endings are easy, but because they are clean. And in that clarity, lives can reset, hearts can mend, purpose can re-emerge. But only when you have the courage to choose pain now, so that bitterness never has to bloom.